where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sands of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom, my dear beloved God, let us all awake. Such is the yearning of the human spirit. From the dawn of civilization, world teachers, philosophers, and leaders have sought the key to unlock the core values of lasting peace and happiness, and to achieve the fulfillment of the human quest for genuine and lasting respect and freedom. This human quest has spanned the annals and aeons of human history, and on repeated occasions when humans have deviated too far from the pursuit and quest of the ideal, great minds have repeatedly appeared to speak to the conscience of humanity. In the mid-18th century, the American colonists recognized that Britain did not understand or appreciate many special peculiarities of their existence. They felt that their dignity was being violated, and they needed to speak out and affirm the basic fundamental rights which lie at the heart and core of every human being and every society. Patrick Henry's clamorous call in 1775 struck the first bell of liberty and the death knell of injustice.
My friends, it is natural for men to indulge in the illusions of hope. We are apt to shut our eyes against the painful truth and listen to the song of that siren till she transforms us into beasts. Is this the part of wise men engaged in a great and arduous struggle for liberty? Are we disposed to be among the number of those who, having eyes, see not, and having ears, hear not the things which so nearly concern our temporal salvation? I, for my part, am willing to know the whole truth, to know the worst, and to provide for it.
I have but one lamp by which my feet are guided, and that is the lamp of experience. I know of no way of judging of the future, but by the past. And judging by the past, I wish to know what there has been in the last 10 years to justify those hopes with which gentlemen have been so pleased to solace themselves and the House. Is it that insidious smile with which our petition has been lately received? Trust it not, sir. It will prove a snare to your feet. Suffer not yourselves to be betrayed by a kiss. Ask yourselves how this gracious reception of our petition comports with these warlike preparations that cover our waters and darken our land. Are fleets and armies necessary to a work of love and reconciliation? Have we shown ourselves so unwilling to be reconciled that force must be called in to win back our love?
Let us not deceive ourselves. These are the implements of war and subjugation, the last arguments to which kings resort. If we wish to be free, if we mean to preserve and violate those inestimable privileges for which we have been so long contending, if we mean not basely to abandon the noble struggle in which we have been so long engaged, and which we have pledged ourselves never to abandon until the glorious object of our conquest shall be obtained, we must fight. I repeat it, we must fight.
Gentlemen may cry, peace, peace, but there is no peace. The war has just begun. The next gale that sweeps from the north will bring to our ears the clash of resounding arms. Our brethren are already in the field. Why stand we here so idle? What is it that gentlemen wish? What would they have? Is life so dear? Is peace so sweet as to be purchased at the price of chains and slavery? Forbid it, Almighty God. I know not what course others may take. But as for me, give me liberty or give me death.
Those defiant words helped rouse the indignation of early white settlers and stirred energies and forces that led to the creation of the first modern democratic state, the United States of America. The hallmark of this unique state was the creation of a set of ideals known as the Bill of Rights, which formed the basis of this democratic state. It is not that these ideals were new to the world, but their statement in such a context would make America unique and special. 90 years after the bold adumbration and adoption of these ideals and principles, the fledgling nation-state faced a stern test. It was split into two, and each side, through the force of arms, tried to affirm its vision on the course the tides of time should take. Tens of thousands died, until eventually the Unionists prevailed with the ideal that the Bill of Rights and the Constitution were truly applicable to all men, not just white settlers, but their black slaves as well. A civil war, however, rents the heart of a people apart. A great leader had to step forward and speak healing words, lest fresh wounds would canker the young democratic state.
77 years ago, our fathers brought forth upon this continent a new nation, conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all men are created equal. Now we are engaged in a great civil war, testing whether that nation, or any nation so conceived and so dedicated, can long endure. We are met on a great battlefield of that war. We have come to dedicate a portion of that field as a final resting place, those who here gave their lives that that nation might live. It is altogether fitting and proper that we should do so. But in a larger sense, we cannot dedicate, we cannot consecrate, we cannot hallow this ground. The brave men living and dead who struggled here have consecrated it, far above our poor power to add or detract. The world will little note, nor long remember what we say here, but it can never forget what they did here. It is rather for us, the living, to be here dedicated to the great task remaining before us, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation, under God, shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from this earth.
At the time it was spoken, many did not fully grasp its power or profundity. But a century and a half later, Lincoln's sagacious words, "Lest government of the people, by the people, and for the people, perish from the earth," make this speech assuredly enduring for ages to come. Although America had safely escaped the clutches of Britain, the latter remained a power, and the destinies of these two nations would be inseparable, given the historical links of a common language, common beliefs, and ancestry. There came a moment, however, when Great Britain faced a harrowing threat to its very existence. If the tides of time did not change, that state would have been vanquished, and the world we take for granted today would have ceased. It is in these horrific times during the Second World War that British leader Sir Winston Churchill rallied his people with these decisive words.
I have, myself, full confidence that if all do their duty, if nothing is neglected, and if the best arrangements are made as they are being made, we shall prove ourselves once again able to defend our island home, to ride out the storms of war, and to outlive the menace of tyranny. If necessary, for years, if necessary, alone. That is the resolve of His Majesty's government, every man of them. That is the will of the Parliament and the nation. The British Empire and the French Republic, linked together in their cause and in their need, will defend to the death their native soil, aiding each other like good comrades to the utmost of their strength. Even though large tracts of Europe and many old and famous states have fallen or may fall into the grip of the Gestapo and all the odious apparatus of Nazi rule, we shall not flag or fail.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight in France. We shall fight on the seas and oceans. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall defend our island whatever the cost may be. We shall fight on the beaches. We shall fight on the landing grounds. We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender. And even if, which I do not for a moment believe, this island or a large part of it were subjugated and starving, then our empire beyond the seas, armed and guarded by the British fleet, would carry on the struggle until in God's good time, the new world with all its power and might steps forth to the rescue and the liberation of the old.
After the humbling experience of one of the most savage wars the world ever endured, and during which we witnessed the unleashing of the first atomic bombs, the tired peoples of the earth needed to regain a new sense of idealism and hope. Their eyes turned again to the United States of America. In 1960, the youngest ever presidential candidate, John Fitzgerald Kennedy, the only Catholic to have ever been elected President of the Union, stirred the hearts of many with his vision of a new direction of the democratic state.
The world is very different now. For man holds in his mortal hands the power to abolish all forms of human poverty and all forms of human life. And yet, the same revolutionary beliefs for which our forebears fought are still at issue around the globe. The belief that the rights of man come not from the generosity of the state, but from the hands of God. Divided, there is little we can do, for we dare not meet a powerful challenge at odds and split asunder. If a free society cannot help the many who are poor, it cannot save the few who are rich. So, let us begin anew, remembering on both sides that civility is not a sign of weakness, and sincerity is always subject to proof. Let us never negotiate out of fear, but let us never fear to negotiate. Let both sides explore what problems unite us, instead of belaboring those problems which divide us. And if a beachhead of cooperation may push back a jungle of suspicion, let both sides join in creating a new endeavor, not a new balance of power, but a new world of law, where the strong are just, and the weak secure, and the peace preserved. And so, my friends, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. My fellow citizens of the world, ask not what America will do for you, but what together we can do for the freedom of man. With a good conscience, our only sure reward, with history, the final judge of our deeds. Let us go forth to lead the land we love, asking His blessings and His help, but knowing that here on earth, God's work must truly be our own.
But every time we move in a new direction, we open closeted secrets and wounds. Although people of color had been legally free in Abraham Lincoln's time, many who opposed this ideal found subtle and not so subtle ways to frustrate this intention. One of the most powerful voices to pose the dilemma that America faced then was Malcolm X. Here was an unusual figure, cast from a special mold. He truly reflected the diversity of American society and the unusual manner this democracy can empower and catapult even its most unconventional of citizens. Malcolm was a petty criminal who became an ardent student of language and communication while he was in prison, where he copied more than 1 million words from the English dictionary which he mastered. He moved away from traditional Christian beliefs to Islam, the religion, as he said, of my ancestors. He even discarded his surname. The speech, the ballot or the bullet, is ranked as one of the most significant speeches ever delivered in modern American history.
Ladies and gentlemen, friends and foes, the question tonight, as I understand it, is where do we go from here, or what next? In my little humble way of understanding it, it points toward either the ballot or the bullet.
Now, before we try to explain what is meant by the ballot or the bullet, I would like to clarify something concerning myself. I am still a Muslim. My religion is Islam. That's my personal belief. Just as Adam Clayton Powell is a Christian minister who heads an Abyssinian Baptist church in New York, but at the same time takes part in the political struggles to try and get about the rights of black people in this country. Just as Dr. Martin Luther King heads another Christian organization down in Atlanta, Georgia, fighting for the civil rights of black people in this country. I myself, I'm a minister too, a Muslim minister, and I believe in action on all fronts, by whatever means necessary.
Although I'm still a Muslim, I'm not here tonight to discuss my religion. I'm not here tonight to try and change your religion. In fact, I'm not here tonight to argue or discuss anything that we differ about. Because it's time for us to submerge our differences and first realize that it's best for us to see that we have the same problem, a common problem, a problem that will make you catch hell, whether you're a Baptist, a Methodist, a Muslim, or a nationalist. Whether you're an educator or literate, whether you live on the boulevard or in the alley, you're all going to catch hell just like I am. We're all in the same boat, and we're all going to catch the same hell from the same man. Whether we are Christians or Muslims, nationalists, agnostics, or atheists, we must first learn to forget our differences. If we have differences, let us first differ in the closet. But when we come out in front, let us not have anything to differ about. Let us not have anything to argue about until we're finished arguing with the man.
If we don't do anything real soon, I think you'll have to agree with me that we're going to be forced either to use the ballot or the bullet. It's not that time is running out. Time has run out. I am one of the 22 million black people who are victims of Americanism. I am one of the 22 million people who are victims of democracy. Nothing but disguised hypocrisy. So I'm not standing here speaking to you as an American or a patriot or a flag saluter or a flag waver. No, not I. I'm speaking to you as a victim of this American system, and through the eyes of a victim, I don't see an American dream. I see an American nightmare.
People are waking up. Their eyes are coming open. They're beginning to see what they only used to look at. They're becoming politically mature. They are realizing that there are new political trends from coast to coast.
I say again,
I'm not anti-Democrat.
I'm not anti-Republican.
I'm not anti-anything.
I'm just questioning their sincerity.
And some of the strategies that they've been using on our people by promising them promises that they don't intend to keep. It's time for you and me to become politically mature and realize what the ballot is for. What we're supposed to get when we cast a ballot.
And if we don't cast a ballot, it's gonna end up in a situation where we're gonna be forced to cast a bullet.
It's either a ballot or a bullet.
And as you know, Malcolm X's fate was not sealed with a ballot, but a bullet. While Malcolm's style was straight talk, tough and confrontational, at the same time there was another eloquent voice asking similar searing, searching questions. Martin Luther King. He was a theologian, an admirer of India's Mohandas Karamchand Gandhi, the Mahatma as he was called at home. Dr. King recognized that if India's independence could be gained through the power of moral force, a similar, equally powerful force could transform America. Using the rhythm, the eloquence, and power of the Bible, he moved millions, not just black, but red and white, men and women, children and youths. His vision of a more perfect union of peoples is spelled out clearly in his "I Have a Dream" speech.
I have a dream today. I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream today. I have a dream that one day every valley shall be exalted, and every hill and mountain shall be made low. The rough places will be made plain, and the crooked places will be made straight. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together. This is our hope. This is the faith with which I return to the south. With this faith, we will be able to hew out of the mountains of despair a stone of hope. With this faith, we will be able to transform the jangling discords of our nation into a beautiful symphony of brotherhood. With this faith, we will be able to work together, to pray together, to struggle together, to go to jail together, to stand up for freedom together, knowing that we will be free one day. This will be the day when all of God's children will be able to sing with new meaning. My country, 'tis of thee, sweet land of liberty. Of thee I sing, land where my fathers died, land of the pilgrim's pride. From every mountainside, let freedom ring. And if we are to be a great nation, this must become true. So let freedom ring from the hilltops of New Hampshire. When we let freedom ring, when we let it ring from every village and every hamlet, from every state and every city, we will be able to speed up that day when all of God's children, black man and white man, Jews and Gentiles, Protestants and Catholics, will be able to join hands and sing in the words of the old Negro spiritual. Free at last, free at last. Thank God Almighty, we are free at last.
But before the dream could be realized, Martin, like Malcolm and Mohan and John Kennedy, would be felled by an assassin's bullet.
I'm delighted to see each of you here tonight in spite of a storm warning. You will feel that you are determined to go on anyhow. Something is happening in Memphis. Something is happening in our world. As you know, if I were standing at the beginning of time with the possibility of general and panoramic view of the human history up to now, and the Almighty said to me, Martin Luther King, Which age would you like to live in? I would take my mental flight by Egypt through, or rather across the Red Sea, through the wilderness. And in spite of its magnificence, I wouldn't stop there. I would move on by Greece and take my mind to Mount Olympus, and I would see Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, Euripides, and Aristophanes assembled around the Parthenon. But I wouldn't stop there. I would come up even to 1863 and watch a vacillating president by the name of Abraham Lincoln finally come to the conclusion that he had to sign the Emancipation Proclamation. But I wouldn't stop there. I would even come up to the early 30s and see a man grappling with the problems of the bankruptcy of his nation and come with an eloquent cry that we have nothing to fear but fear itself. But I wouldn't stop there. Strangely enough, I would turn to the Almighty and say, if you allow me to live just a few years in the 20th century, I will be happy. So now that's a strange statement because the world is all messed up, the nation is sick, troubles in the land, confusions all around. That's a strange statement. But I know somehow that only when it's dark enough can you see the stars. And I see God working in this period of the 20th century in a way that men, in some strange way, are responding. Something is happening in our world. The masses of people are rising up, and wherever they are assembled today, whether they are in Johannesburg, South Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, Accra, Ghana, New York City, or Memphis, Tennessee, the cry is always the same. We want to be free.
Well, I don't know what will happen now. We've got some difficult days ahead. But it doesn't matter with me now because I have been to the mountaintop. And I don't mind. Like anybody, I would like to live a long life. Longevity has its place. But I'm not concerned about that now. I just want to do God's will. And He's allowed me to go up to the mountaintop. And I've looked over and I have seen the promised land. I may not get there with you tonight, but we as a people will get to the promised land. I'm happy tonight. I'm not worried about anything. I am not fearing any man. Mine eyes have seen the glory of the coming of the Lord.
In a little tent, oh, and just like the river I've been running ever since. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will. It's been too but I'm afraid to die, 'cause I don't know what's up there beyond the sky. It's been a long time coming, but I know a change gonna come. Oh, yes it will.
It has been a long road to freedom, but change must come. The battle lines were not just drawn on the sands of North America, but across the so-called free world, wherever the paradigm of oppression and injustice reigned. South Africa symbolized a bastion of Dutch oppression. It affected not just Africans and Bushmen, but East Indians from the subcontinent and the races of mixed ancestry. And as we said earlier, whenever virtue declines, great voices will stand up and speak. And so Nelson Mandela arose, and he was tasked with sounding the war cry that would topple the dark forces of Dutch apartheid.
Dangers and difficulties have not deterred us in the past. They will not frighten us now. But we must be prepared for them like men in business who do not waste energy in vain talk and idle action. The way of preparation for action lies in our rooting out all impurity and in discipline from our organization, and making it the bright and shining instrument that will cleave its way to freedom. You can see that there is no easy walk to freedom anywhere, and many of us will have to pass through the valley of the shadow of death again and again before we reach the mountain tops of our desires.
As the horizon of our awareness expands, we realize that we have to go beyond mere outward respect for ourselves and our neighbors. That respect must engulf life, all beings. When we look at the bounty of the earth and our world today, we recognize that we live and move on a planet that teems with life. Indeed, the earth is a living creature, for no dead object can give life. And because life is naturally engendered through the feminine principle, we may rightly call this living planet Mother Earth or Gaia, as the ancient Greeks did. Today, increasing numbers of people are recognizing the strand of life that is mysteriously woven in and through every living thing on our fragile planet. No people better characterize this deep sense of awe and respect for Mother Earth as the indigenous peoples. They know that the earth can survive without man, but man cannot survive without the earth. Those words were first uttered by Chief Seattle. He had the clarity of vision to see more than 100 years ago that not just our relations with each other mattered, but man's very relation with the earth herself needed urgent transformation as well, if we are to survive beyond the 20th and 21st century in the United States of the world. This is the frontier we're all facing now on planet Earth, regardless of creed, color, class, or nationality. Undoubtedly, the Bill of Rights must now be expanded to embrace our living Mother Earth.
The rivers are our brothers. They quench our thirst. The rivers carry our canoes and feed our children. If we sell you our land, you must remember and teach your children that the rivers are our brothers and yours, and henceforth give the rivers the kindness you would give any brother. We know the European doesn't understand our ways. One portion of land is the same to him as the next, for he is a stranger who comes in the night and takes from the land whatever he needs. The earth is not his brother, but his enemy, and when he has conquered it, he moves on. He leaves his father's grave behind, and he does not care. His father's grave and his children's birthright are forgotten. He treats his mother the earth and his brother the sky as things to be bought, plundered, sold like sheep or bright beasts. His appetite will devour the earth and leave behind only a desert.
I do not know, but our ways are different than your ways. The sight of your cities pains the eyes of the red man. There is no quiet place in your cities, no place to hear the unfurling of leaves in spring or the rustle of the insect's wings. The clatter only seems to insult the ears. And what is there to life if a man cannot hear the lonely cry of the whippoorwill or the arguments of the frogs around the pond at night? I'm a red man and do not understand. The Indian prefers the soft sound of the wind darting over the face of a pond, and the smell of the wind itself, cleaned by midday rain, or scented with pinon pine.
The air is precious to the red man, for all things share the same breath. The beast, the tree, the man, they all share the same breath. The European does not seem to notice the air he breathes. Like a man dying for many days, he is numb to the stench. But if we sell you our land, you must remember that air is precious to us. The air shares its spirit with all the life it supports. The wind that gave our grandfather his first breath also receives his last sigh. If we sell you our land, you must keep it apart, sacred, as a place where even a European can go, taste the wind that is sweetened by meadows' flowers. So we will consider your offer to buy our land. If we decide to accept, I will make one condition. The European must treat the beasts of this land as his brothers. I am a savage and do not understand any other way. I have seen 1,000 rotting buffaloes on the prairie left by the European who shot them from a passing train. I am a savage and do not understand how the smoking iron horse can be made more important than the buffalo that we kill only to stay alive.
Your destiny is a mystery to us, for we do not understand when the buffalo are all slaughtered, the wild horses tamed, the secret corners of the forest heavy with the scent of many men, and the view of the ripe hills blotted by talking wires. Whatever befalls the earth, befalls the sons of the earth.
This we know. The earth does not belong to man. Man belongs to the earth. This we know. All things are connected like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected.
There can be no greater indication of the swiftly moving tide of global transformation than the events of November 5th, 2008. The 2008 U.S. elections were followed with intense expectation across the entire globe. Once again, the people of the United States of America demonstrated to the world that they could boldly renew the vision of their society.
Hello, Paramaribo! If there's anyone out there who still doubts that America is a land where all things are possible, who still wonders if the dream of our founders is alive in our time, who still questions the power of our democracy, tonight is your answer. It's the answer told by lines that stretched around schools and churches in numbers this nation has never seen, by people who waited 3 hours and 4 hours, many for the first time in their lives, because they believe that this time must be different, that their voices could be that difference. It's the answer spoken by young and old, rich and poor. It's the answer that led those who've been told for so long by so many to be cynical and fearful and doubtful about what we can achieve to put their hands on the arc of history and bend it once more towards the hope of a better day. It has been a long time coming. But tonight, because of what we did on this day, in this election, at this defining moment, that change has come to America.
I was never the likeliest candidate for this office. We didn't start with much money or many endorsements. Our campaign was not hatched in the halls of Washington. It began in the backyards of Des Moines, and the living rooms of Concord, and the front porches of Charleston. It was built by the working men and women who dug into what little savings they have to give $5 and $10 and $20 to the cause. It grew strength from the young people who left their homes and their families for jobs that offered little pay and less sleep. It grew strength from the not so young people who braved the bitter cold and the scorching heat to knock on doors of perfect strangers. And from the millions of Americans who volunteered and organized and proved that more than 2 centuries later, a government of the people, for the people, and by the people has not yet perished from the earth. This is your victory. The road ahead will be long, and the climb will be steep. We might not get there in 1 year, or even in 1 term. But America, I have never been more hopeful than I am tonight that we will get there. I promise you, we as a people will get there.
This election has had many firsts and many stories that will be told for generations. But one that's on my mind tonight is about a woman who cast her ballot in Atlanta. She's a lot like the millions of others who stood in line to make their voices heard in this election, except for one thing. Ann Nixon Cooper is 106 years old. She was born just a generation past slavery, a time when there were no cars on the road or planes in the sky, when someone like her couldn't vote for 2 reasons: because she's a woman and because of the color of her skin. And tonight, I think about all that she's seen throughout her century in America. The heartache and the hope, the struggle and the progress. The times we're told that we can't, and the people who pressed on with that American creed, yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
At a time when women's voices were silenced and their hopes dismissed, she lived to see them stand up and speak out and reach for the ballot, yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
When there is despair in the Dust Bowl and depression across the land, she saw a nation conquer fear itself with new jobs, New Deal, and a new sense of common purpose. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
When the bombs fell on our harbor and tyranny threatened the world, she lived to see a generation rise to greatness, and a democracy was saved. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
She was there for the buses in Montgomery, the hoses in Birmingham, a bridge in Selma, and a preacher from Atlanta who told the people, we shall overcome. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
A man touched down on the moon. A wall came down in Berlin. A world was connected by our own science and imagination. And this year, in this election, she touched her finger to a screen and cast her vote, because after 106 years in America, through the best of times and the darkest of hours, she knows how America can change. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
America, we have come so far. We have seen so much, but there's so much more to do. So tonight, let us ask ourselves, if our children should live to see the next century, if my daughter should be so lucky as to live as long as Ann Nixon Cooper, what change will they see? What progress will we have made? This is our chance to answer that call. This is our moment. This is our time. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Since 2008, these 3 simple yet powerful words have not just reverberated in our world and engendered positive change, they have at times even called its primary audience to re-examine the ideals and flawed practice which has been held aloft for over 2 centuries. In the wake of numerous untold challenges, some bordering on crises that have transpired since, sad to say many human-induced and inflicted, the year 2012 marks yet another significant, momentous turning point. And again, the peoples of the earth find themselves yearning for a genuine, people-centered global vision of hope and peace, compassion and justice, prosperity and well-being, far removed from media-driven dramas or the transparent shenanigans of manipulative geopolitical power play. For many of the earth's forgotten and downtrodden scattered worldwide, even in Europe and North America, the words that Haile Selassie uttered in 1963 at the United Nations ring pregnant with truth and clarity. We've adapted His Majesty's words for this presentation, knowing that Selassie's intent was, simply in the words of Martin Luther King and the prophet Isaiah, to lower every mountain and hilltop, to make crooked places straight, and to exalt every valley on earth, so that the only true one shall be plainly seen by all flesh.
Until the philosophy which holds one race superior and another inferior is finally and permanently discredited and abandoned. Until there are no longer first-class and second-class citizens of any nation. Until the color of a man's skin is of no more significance than the color of his eyes. Until the basic human rights are equally guaranteed to all without regard to race. Until that day, the dream of lasting peace and world citizenship and the rule of international morality will remain but fleeting illusions to be pursued.
We all wish to live. We all seek a world in which men are freed of the burdens of ignorance, poverty, hunger, and disease. And we shall all be hard-pressed to escape the deadly rain of nuclear fallout should catastrophe overtake us. The problems which confront us today are equally unprecedented. They have no counterparts in human experience. Men search the pages of history for solutions, for precedents, but there are none. This then is the ultimate challenge. Where are we to look for our survival, for the answers to the questions which have never before been posed?
We must first look to the Almighty, who has raised man above the animals and endowed him with intelligence and reason. We must put our faith in him that he will not desert us or permit us to destroy humanity, which he created in his image. We must look into ourselves, into the depth of our souls. We must become something which we have never been, and for which our education and experience and environment have ill-prepared us. We must become bigger than we have been, more courageous, greater in spirit, larger in outlook. We must become members of a new race, overcoming petty prejudice, owing our ultimate allegiance to our fellow men within the human community.
Yes, we can. Yes, we can. Yes, we can.
In these dissonant times, yet so consonant, the best and the worst of times, when crooked places will be hewn down and molded afresh, re-imbued with a new spirit, we close this presentation with the same potent words we started with. Where the mind is without fear and the head is held high, where knowledge is free, where the world has not been broken up into fragments by narrow domestic walls, where words come out from the depth of truth, where tireless striving stretches its arms towards perfection, where the clear stream of reason has not lost its way into the dreary desert sand of dead habit, where the mind is led forward by thee into ever-widening thought and action, into that heaven of freedom. My dear beloved God, let us all awake.
Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govinda Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govinda Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govinda Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govinda Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Vinum Kwanantam Aravinda Tavayataksam Paravatam Samasitam Udasundaram Govindam Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govindam Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Govinda Adipurusham Dhammaham Bhajami Anganiyasya sakale priya priti manti pachanti panti kalyanti chiram jagamti ananda chinmaya sadhu jalavrigasya. Say